Well, it's you. Glad to see you're back. Welcome to another episode of the Bionicle Inspiration Series. Today, we're talking about crabs, because I don't know what it is, but after I've done 180 whatever of these Bionicle Inspiration Series episodes, I've come to realize I really like crabs. I don't know why, but they're really cool. And so I've decided let's do a bunch of really cool crab mocks. I also decided because some people said, hey Ben, can we get a crab episode? And I was like, yeah, sure. So, hey, if you've got suggestions for themes, send those suggestions my way and I'll make it into an episode, because why not? You know, within reason, depends what the theme is, and depends how easy it is to make an episode out of it. Sometimes themes are a little harder to do than they might sound, but today we're talking about crabs, like I said, so get excited, because it's crab time. Alright, so we've got 9 crab mocks today. This first one is by Victor, and it's called Curt the Carpenter Crab. So this is adorable, but I'm sure you already knew that. What a cool idea to build a little fun crab, but he's got little tools and he's making stuff. Curt is doing his best, and we're proud of Curt. But no, I adore this. I think this is great. And one thing I wanted to talk about with this is, you know, often, I'm sure you would have seen it just from watching, you know, any episode of the Bionicle Inspiration Series, but very typically people like to build very serious mocks sometimes, you know. This is Toa Darkra, and he has been on a quest for years and has discovered the secret talisman and blah, and you know what, that's fun, and there is nothing wrong with that. Building super serious, laden with backstory mocks is always a great thing to do, and if that's what, you know, makes you happy, if that's what sparks your imagination, by all means do it. But hey, it's just as cool to build a fun little goofy, funny mock as well, because it's just really charming. There's something really nice about it. So, hey, if you're someone who always likes to build really super serious backstory, you know, filled with backstory kind of characters, nothing wrong with that. But maybe it's worth trying something fun or funny, just because it could be a little enjoyable thing to do. Or vice versa. Maybe you build a lot of super silly, weird stuff. Maybe time to build some super serious stuff. Could be a fun thing to try. Always nice to try new things, you know? But yeah, I always like seeing mocks that are, you know, not too serious, because they're just cool. And speaking of not being too serious, I love that this crab has those big old googly eyes from the Lego Mixel sets. And it kind of got me thinking, you know, there's a lot of different eyepieces out there, whether that's, you know, a lot of those Mixel sets had different eyepieces, whether they were the tiled stud pieces or, you know, they were even some 2x2 round plate eye pieces as well. And there's a whole bunch of different printed eye pieces that you can get in a variety of different sets and places as well. So, you know, take a look around your collection, have a look at some sets. There's a bunch of different weird, crazy eye pieces that you could use, and how could that inform a mock for you? Is it a bit goofy like this, or, you know, do you need a cool-looking eye design for some sort of, you know, crazy, weird creature that you might be building? You know, who knows? But I really like that. It's good to see those pieces being put to use, because they're actually a pretty versatile piece, you know? It's cool. It's really cool. Something else that's really cool is I love the shell on the back of this crab here. The fact that it's kind of combining that Pahatu mask in that kind of rust color, or nougat color. I'm not actually sure what the official name for that color is, but I always call it rust, because it kind of looks like, you know, rust. But that mask there has been combined with the G2 Pahatu torso armor piece that has some printing on it. And those two actually kind of flow very nicely one into the other there, and it just creates a really nice sort of shell-like look for the you know, the shell on the back of a crab. It's not a shell, is it, though? What's the technical term for that? I'm going to do what I've been doing the past few BIS episodes and pause and find out. What is that? It is called a carapace. Yes, technical terms. We're learning things today. I also found another image that had a more, like, scary sounding name for it, a cephalothorax. We're not going to call it that. It's a carapace. So, hey, those two pieces in combination like that actually work really well for a carapace as such. I also like, too, that the Pahatu G2 chest piece there has the printing on it. You know, there are different methods that you can use to remove printing on Lego pieces, but I like that he kept that, because it kind of gives it this more sort of weathered look. And, you know, the carapace of a crab is a little bit more sort of hardened and textured, and it can sometimes have sort of sea dirt or barnacles or things on it. So I like the fact that the printing there can kind of act as that sort of, if for lack of a better term, kind of weathering on the back of the crab there. So hey, you know, I think that's pretty creative and clever, and a good use of that printing, because, you know, sometimes a piece being printed can limit its use, and sometimes it can actually really aid its use. So hey, lots of cool stuff there for sure. But yeah, I love how cute this guy is. I love some of the clever little part usages he's got. And there's just so much charm in this guy when he's got those, tools in his hand and everything. This is just a really fun and exciting little mock. I very much enjoy it. All right, so this next mock is called Maze Spider, and it is built by The Good Guy Chronicles. So, yeah, I know. You're like, Ben, this is an episode about crabs. Why did you put a spider in this episode? Good point. But, reading Mr. Good Guy's description here on the email, he said, this is the maze spider. Funny enough, it evokes more of a crab aesthetic despite being named a spider. And he said, Agori have strange naming methods. Fair. So, I like that idea. I like the idea that this is some sort of mechanical creature that's been built by some Matoran, by some Agori, whatever you want to call them. Matoran and Agori, this is basically the same thing. But, I like the idea that they've looked to the animal kingdom and they've been inspired by a crab, and so they've given it this more sort of carapace, the word that we've recently learnt, for the front of its head there, and some almost sort of crab-like legs to some fashion there, and taken a bit of inspiration from it, but kind of changed the way it looks. And again, it got me thinking, I just watched the most recent episode of The Mandalorian. No spoilers here, I promise, but oh my god, it was amazing. And it also kind of got me thinking just about general kind of ships and things in Star Wars, Star Destroyers, they're large triangles, but they're made to look way cooler. X-Wings are shaped after an X, but they're made to look a lot cooler. U-Wings have a U shape to them, B-Wings don't actually look like bees at all, but apparently B is short for blade, and it's a blade wing, and it kind of looks like a blade, which, that's fair. But hey, it still works with my analogy here, because some of the coolest designed things in the world are simply based off random stuff like the letter B, well, not the letter B, the letter X, or a triangle, It's not that complex what it's inspired by, but it can inform something super cool. So I like the idea of that, look to the animal kingdom, look to random numbers and letters, look to weird shapes and sizes and things, and can you let that inspire you? Obviously, you don't just build a straight up triangle and go, it's a Pegasus. They're like, well, it's not, But can you let it be the starting point that you then expand upon and draw further from and add things to and put a texture on it and do all sorts of craziness to it, and then suddenly, boom, you've built a cool thing, And so I like the idea here, especially what it means for like the in-world kind of justification for it. Maybe these Agori lived by the water, and a lot of crabs live near the water, and they said, hey, we want to develop some sort of machine that can fight off some of the predators that attack the town. Let's base it off these crabs, because they have very strong carapaces, and we want this robot to be strong as well, so we've been inspired by these crabs, and we're going to do something similar. But it takes on this sort of life of its own as it's being built, and it becomes this thing, and it sort of says a lot about the town, the things that are nearby, what they interact with, what they learn from, all that sort of stuff. So I like the kind of in-story reasoning behind that as well, I don't know, I just think that's cool. I think there's a lot of inspiration you can gain from just, looking at the world around you, whether that's you, the builder, or the in-universe builder of this specific maze spider here. Yeah. And also you can do cool little hybrids too, where it's, a spider-crab mix, and it kind of becomes something like this, Combining things like that is also just a good way to get a few unique ideas as well. So hey, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool indeed. This is the Bionicle Inspiration Series after all. Always gotta give you a few ideas for ways that you yourself can get a bit of inspiration. So hey, something to consider. But let's talk about this maze spider mock here as well. So something he said in the email here that I wanted to quickly touch upon. He says that this guy has wheels on its belly so it can roll in its folded up position. So here's the image of it in its folded up position. And what I like about this is it kind of reminds me of the original Mask of Light movie, the Bionicle movie. If you haven't watched it yet, it might be a fun thing to watch because, hey, it's a movie about that thing we like, Bionicle, I'm sure you can watch it on like YouTube. I don't know if it's on like Netflix or anything. It might be worth looking up. But besides the point, in the movie, a lot of the characters, specifically the bad guys, they're like, I could walk, or I could fold up my legs and fly like I'm a speeder bike. Which I remember when I watched that as a kid, I just thought that was super cool. But the more I think about it as an adult, I'm like, what? They could just do that? That's really cool, So hey, kind of to me has little vibes of that, the idea that apparently some Bionicles can just straight up fly if they want, or at least glide, but they just got to kind of curve their legs in some fashion. So I like the idea here that, yeah, he's got those wheels on his belly there, and so he can kind of, if he needs to go a little bit faster, he has that sort of different mode that can help him travel larger distances, as, you know, Nadiki and Krekker had. So hey, I think that's really cool, and surprisingly fitting within the aesthetic of Bionicle. Speaking of Bionicle aesthetics, I like that Borok shield piece is being used here. It's kind of similar to what I said before of, you know, drawing inspiration from crabs to, you know, replicate their strong carapaces and put that here on this mech, or not really a mech, I suppose, this robot, whatever you want to call it. And, yeah, it's just cool. I really, really like that. Especially, too, because it could be another in-universe thing that they're like, man, remember those Borok guys that attacked us? Those guys were bad news bears. They had really strong face shield things. Hey, maybe we could use those strong face shield things on our machines as well, you know? So, hey, and that's really fun and really cool, and it makes it feel more in-universe, more just distinct and different. I really like that. So yeah, I've spoken about this one a fair bit now. Just really fun little design here, a lot of cool little creative ideas and things that you can kind of draw upon it. May not have been his original design, you know, process that he did to make this, but hey, I still think there's some cool stuff that we can learn from, even if he didn't do that. So I really like it. But yeah, really awesome aesthetic, cool legs, cool body. He just looks pretty rad. It's a robot. I'm not going to assume it's gender. I don't know what it is. It's a cool robot. Let's move on to the next one. So this is called Adorable Crab, and it's by Ensir. So I love a lot about this. What I specifically like about it is some of these first images where it has a freaking turret on its head. That is cool. That is really cool. Because crabs are cool. But you know what's cooler? A crab with a gun. Yeah, that's great. So if you're going to build a crab, put a Gatling gun, a big shooty pew-pew blaster thing on the top of its head, or coming out of its legs, or whatever, because that's a great idea. I love that. But let's talk about this specific crab. I love the eyes on this crab here. Some of the other crabs we saw before, you know, they did have eyes that kind of stuck out a little bit, but this one, it's a little more prominent. So let's take a look at a realistic crab, because, you know, it's always a good idea. They kind of have eyes that look very similar to this crab here. They do really sort of jut out in that fashion, and you know, the mouth as well. I don't know, it's all weird and crab-like. I don't know how to describe that in big boy words, but it has a very distinct look to it. And so I think that's always a great thing to do. If you are building any kind of animal or creature or whatever, whether it's a crab, whether it's a wolf, or whether it's some sort of fictional creature like a xenomorph or something, I think it's very important to do that. Look at a lot of the source material that's out there, because, hey, things like crabs and other animals in the real world, there's a lot of pictures of them, and there's a lot of different species of them. There's a lot of different images that you can draw upon and get a lot of inspiration from, and it's really important to study those images, you know, see how the different body parts work, all that sort of stuff, and then you can implement that into your own mocks there, because, you know, it's just a good reference point. So definitely wise to look at this sort of thing. But yeah, as we compare a real-life crab to this crab mock here, I really like how he's done the eye design there, because it very much mimics what they actually look like. I also really enjoyed the crab claws on this guy here. This crab mock has this little more sort of like mechanical feeling to it. And so I like the fact that he has these little tiny pincers, and the one end of the pincer there is just one of those sort of new fandangled clip pieces that allows you to insert a lightsaber rod at the top, and then the other bit's just a clip. It's a very small piece in light grey there. You can see the sort of the top bit of the pincer there. That in conjunction with one of those curved slopes there just creates a nice looking little pincer design there. It's just very effective, just looks nice. It's just really well done. So yeah, no, I really like that. I think it's a very effective, very simple design, but it works really well on this sort of smaller scale mock. I also really like how the legs use those mixel joint pieces, and there's a lot of the different mixel joint pieces used on this mock here, because they're really good pieces. They're very sturdy, they're very strong, they're very effective, and they're very small too. They're a lot smaller than some of your typical Bionicle connection pieces here. And what's so cool about that is, if you want to build a smaller scale mock like this, they're just perfect for exactly that. And I love that he's specifically not put any pieces over the top of them. He's just simply used that one piece, because that piece naturally has this more sort of, you know, studded texture to it. And it makes it look a little bit more mechanical. And, you know, like I said before, this crab does have this more sort of mechanical look to it. And I think that perfectly fits in with the rest of the texture. I think it's just a nice example as well that, you know, maybe you're building a mock right now and you're like, oh, I've got to armor up this specific piece, or I've got to put a little bit more onto it, or add a few extra pieces for detail and stuff. Maybe you don't, you know? I think this works super well not having that specific piece be armored up in any fashion. So, hey, if you can do that yourself, might work. It might not, but it just depends on the aesthetic you're going for. really pick your pieces carefully and see what works with the overall design, because it could work really well like we see here. Final thing I like about this crab is I love the fact that he's used some of those triaxle pieces to connect the sort of joint in all the 6 different legs there. The fact that the triaxle piece kind of sticks out on the sides and it almost looks like sort of nuts and bolts or something kind of sticking out. Again, it just gives it this more mechanical feeling, this more really unique and distinct, different look to it. I just really like it. I think it's just really unique, really clever. So yeah, that's awesome. It's really awesome. Really unique, really different crab design. Pretty cool. And speaking of pretty cool things, let's move on to this next mock. It's by Librarian Bot, and it's called the Manus Crab. So I've spoken about Manus Crabs a few times, actually. I've featured different versions of Manus Crabs across other episodes of the Bionicle Inspiration series, but I really wanted to cover this one because it's big, awesome, and just generally very impressive. The Manus Crab, of course, was an original Lego Rahi set from 2001? Question mark? I don't remember dates very well for specific things. I tend to remember every year by like what I did that year. So like 2001, I don't know, what was that, like year 2 for me or something? Or second grade for me? I don't know. I don't remember. But yeah, like for example, the year 2013, that's the year I graduated school. So I go, oh, that was 12th grade, Or it's like, oh, 20... I'm probably going to remember 2020 as the year of COVID. You know what I mean? Like, it's the stuff you did in it. That's how I remember it. But that's not relevant to the mock we're talking about right now. This is a really cool Manus Crab. And it came out at some point as a set, and you're currently seeing what it looked like on your screen. It was a cool thing. I liked the set. I never got it. But if I could find one for cheap, I would buy it. But I think the Manus Crabs had this beautiful aesthetic to them that I think was so Bionicle. Because Bionicle to me is this kind of really interesting blend of mechanical and kind of this organic-y kind of feeling. I guess that's why it's called Bionicle, because, that biomechanical. It's a mixture of kind of organic and mechanical. At least that's the way I saw it. And yeah, I think the Manus Crab, specifically the one that this is based off, the white, orange, and black one, or kind of grey one, really. That one to me really looks like it is this sort of more bare-boned, mechanical-looking crab that has this more sort of organic shell over the top of it, and that shell is the white. That's just the way I saw the set, and I love that that's kind of been expanded even further here on this mock. I think this is just a really great way of expanding upon some of the original concepts and aesthetics of that set and making it look like 12 times cooler. So let's discuss it. So yeah, like I said before, that kind of white area to me looked like a sort of, whether it's some sort of armor enhancement or a sort of more metallic-like shell over the top. The fact that he's used system pieces there to really differentiate it between the more mechanical texture below, I think that works really well. And it kind of makes sense for what an actual crab looks like. That carapace there is a lot more sort of hardened and rough in texture and look, whereas the skin underneath is a little bit more sort of mushy and a different texture. And of course, when you translate it to a more robotic version of a crab, it makes sense that it would be more sort of gear and piston focused underneath, and the shell over the top is this more sort of plasticoid, plastic kind of styled, mechanical shell of sorts. So I think it's just a really great way of playing with textures and in general just a really, really solid looking design. I love that it has a lot of different sort of jets and other kind of greebled details in silver sort of scattered throughout it. It makes it look more sort of science fiction-y and more unique and I don't know, it just has such a distinct look to it. I don't know, again, like I said, this is why I love the Manus Crab as a set so much, because it had such a unique aesthetic to it, and this mock just does this set justice. I don't know, it makes me happy. It's like today's episode of The Mandalorian, it just made me happy. I'm not going to spoil it, I promise, but look, I'm in a happy mood, because there's a lot of good things happening right now. It's nice. I'm getting to look at a nice mock. I get good stuff in The Mandalorian. It's a good time. It's a good time to be alive. Anyway, some other stuff I like about this mock. I like how all the different legs have wheels on the ends of them. It's just something so different, unique. It's like, hey, this is a mechanical crab. I can do what I want with it, It's like another Star Wars reference here. It's a Star Wars episode today, guys. I got more planned, don't worry. It's like when J.J. Abrams was going to direct episode 9. He's like, he watched episode 8 and he's like, oh, I don't have to necessarily follow like set rules with a Star Wars movie. I can kind of do what I want because that's in the DNA of the serial and pop of Star Wars. He's like, oh, I can do this and this. And then he made a great movie out of it. So yeah, I like that idea too, that you're like, yeah, I get to make a mechanical crab. I can do what I want. I'm going to put wheels on its feet. Why not, It's It's nice to do that. It's nice to set your boundaries, know what it is that you're making, and then go, hey, how far can I stretch this concept? What kind of crazy weird thing can I add, and how can I make it work? And you do exactly that. I like that. I like that a lot. Putting wheels on the end of the feet, because why not? It's a mechanical crab. Great idea. Final thing I like about this, which is a lot, but I'm gonna shorten it down because otherwise we're going to be here for 7 hours. But Mr. Librarian Bot, know that I thoroughly enjoy your mock. I love that the kind of mouth of this crab, similar to some of the images of crabs we saw before, where they do have that weird crab-like mouth with different appendages and weird things sticking out of it. He's put gears there in that area. I think that looks quite menacing, because remember, these were the bad guys, the Manus crabs. They worked with Makuta, if I remember correctly. But yeah, that one looks so crab-like, but 2 has been taken to that mechanical place instead of a more organic place, and makes it just look so much more menacing, scary, but still surprisingly accurate. It's cool, and it's just a great use of those gears as well, because I'll be honest, I'm one of those people. I'm not great at like power functions and using gears and motorizing a Lego set or a mock or whatever. I can motorize a Lego set, because if there's instructions for it, of course I can do it. But, doing it on my own accord, it's not something I have a lot of experience with. I'd like to grow with that and try around that sort of stuff a bit more, but it's not something I excel at. So often gears and things in my collection, I tend to not use them because of that. So it's nice to see gears being used here as more of an aesthetical add-on to the mock, something that just enhances it. It doesn't have any function to it, but it uses the textures of those gears to make it look a bit more menacing. I think that's just a fine little addition, and it gives me hope for the gears in my collection that sit and do nothing. I go, hey, I can find a home for these guys now. It's cool. It's really cool. So yeah, fantastic revamp of the Manus Crab. Love your work. I shouldn't have picked 9 mocks in this episode, guys. It's going to be a long one because I still got like 5 more to cover. So here we go. But I'm not going to cheap out. I'm going to cover these all in explicit detail. We're just going to have a long one today, guys. It's going to be fun. All right, this next mock. It's by Dr. Toxic, otherwise known as the All-Seeing Eye. And this mock didn't have a name in the email. The email said, I'll read the email. He said, hello once again. Here is one of my newer mocks, and I'm very happy with how it turned out. The design is based off the island of Mutanui crabs. That's pretty cool. That's all he said in the email. So I don't know what the name of this crab is, but it has a top hat. So I'm going to call it Sir Crab. Because, what else would you call a cat? I was going to call it a cat. What else would you call a crab with a top hat? Although if I see a cat with a top hat, I'm going to also call it Sir Crab because I stumbled over my words and apparently I have to now. So there you go. Anyway, it's Sir Crab. Great to see him. He looks cool. He's got a hat. That's amazing. I said before, if your crab has a gun with it, that's awesome. But if your crab has a hat, even better. Or even better, give your crab a gun and a hat. Now we're thinking. Another thing that this crab has, which I think is a great little detail, is he has a pirate ship wheel. Now, that's cool. That's really cool. Why is it cool? Because I like the idea that this crab was just scouring the ocean floor, and then suddenly he's like, what's this? And then he stumbled across a shipwreck, and he's like, ooh, cool, look at all this stuff. He's exploring, he's having fun, and he finds the ship of the wheel, and he's like, I'm going to take this. And he's like, what can you use that for? And he's like, I don't know, let's find out, But it kind of reminds me of like a bird or something where they pick up like a shiny object they find on the floor and they're like, I like this. This is mine. I'm taking it, Or when I was at uni the other day and I was eating food and this bird just had the audacity and was like, I'm just going to swoop and steal your food. And I was like, stop. And then he stopped. But, that wasn't relevant. But hey, there you go. Story time with Ben. Enjoy. But I like that idea. The fact that some sort of sea creature would find some sort of interesting thing on the floor and maybe even use it as some sort of shield, or they just like it, Just seems fitting, He lives in that world. That sort of thing could be found in that world, and he takes it. Why not? Why not? I like it a lot. Some other stuff I really like about this crab is the choice of using the Mantax claw pieces as the crab pincers there. They just work really well. And of course, the Baraki were based off of sea creatures. I think Mantax was even kind of based off of a crab. I think so. I don't know, quote me. Was he more of a stingray? I guess he was more of a stingray. I don't know. Oh yeah, Karapar was the crab, wasn't he? Which makes sense, because Karapar is also the thing. There you go. Anyway, hey, irrelevant. They are still cool. They have a more nautical theme to them, an underwater theme to them. And so it makes sense to use them on a creature that lives underwater, because they were designed to have that look to them. So really great choice of pieces there. It works really well and just looks really nice. So that's pretty cool. It's really cool. I also like the eyes, like we said before. Crab eyes tend to sort of jut out in that fashion, so using axles and ball joints like that is a clever looking design. It works well. And I also like the use of some of these Hero Factory pieces, whether it's those Ben 10 arm pieces for the arms on this crab, or whether it's the big, large, raw jaw paw piece that's used as the carapace. Oh no, I'm confusing the set carapace with the part of the crab. The big back thing on the back of this crab, which we know is called a carapace. Not a carapace, a carapace. Easy to mix up those words. But hey, here at Factory Pieces I think work really well for a crab, because they kind of just have that aesthetic. The texture of them kind of matches how a crab looks. It's fitting. It's really cool. So a really nice crab, Dr. Toxic. Love your work. Let's move on to the next mock. It's by Galaxis, and this is called Cerulean Crab. So this crab here uses some of the blue Borok weapon pieces on his claws. And I love that. It's like I said before, you know, a lot of the blue Bionicle characters were designed to have water elements and themes to them. So of course, if you're building an underwater creature, why not use some of those pieces? Because they were designed to have that aesthetic. So they will just naturally work. You know, if you're building an underwater thing, it makes sense to use underwater related pieces. Yeah, it just makes sense. And I think they work really, really well here, especially on those claws. I think it just gives it this beautiful Bionicle aesthetic and just looks really nice. I think it also looks really nice using those Technic panel pieces there on the carapace of the crab, because, again, that texture that those pieces has really perfectly matches the texture of the carapace of a crab. It's very cool indeed. I also like too the eyes on this crab here. Like we said, they do jut out slightly, but I think it's just been interesting seeing all the different eye variations on these crabs, because, you know, there's been some fairly consistent elements for some of the crabs we've seen today, but I think almost every one of them has had a relatively different eye design in some fashion here. So it's just interesting to see that they're using those cylinder pieces there, or cone pieces rather, those 1x1 cones, as the eye there, and they're attached in with some of those clip pieces. It looks like he's put two of those clips together and just inserted them into the Technic panel piece there. It works really, really well, actually. So yeah, this is just a bit more of a sort of smaller scale, simple crab, but hey, smaller scale stuff. I'm gonna say that again. Smaller scale stuff, I often really enjoy, you know? It's nice to build a big mock, but it's also nice to build a little small one, because, you know, it doesn't take as much time. You can, you know, just quickly mock something up in one night, and you're like, hey, I made a thing. Whereas if you build a bigger thing, it can take you months sometimes, you know? So building smaller can be just as fun as building big. And I think this is a really well-built, small little mock here. It's got some great part usages, and just looks really nice. So love your work, Galaxis. Always loved your work. Always thought you built some cool stuff. And let's transition to another builder here, who I've also been following for quite some time, back in the mock pages days, and this is a builder called Stormbringer, and this is his mock Kingler. And yeah, Stormbringer is a fantastic builder. He builds a lot of Pokemon-related mocks. He also builds a lot of dragons as well. Be sure to check out his stuff. He's really, really talented. But Pokemon, one of the other things I like. Kingler, great Pokemon as well. And this is a fantastic version of Kingler. Looks very accurate to the source material. I haven't saved an image of Kingler to include in the episode, but I'm going to do that now so that you know what Kingler looks like in case you're not super familiar with Pokemon. But he has done a brilliant job of matching the source material on Kingler there. Done a fantastic job. So what I like so much about it is specifically the eye design. You know, the original version of Kingler has those big, you know, anime-style eyes with just a dot in the center of them for the pupils. And I love that Stormbringer here has simply got an axle and put it into a Technic brick with the axle on the side there. And what's so cool about it is it forms that pupil very well, but it also acts as a way of connecting the eye. Just really clever, effective design there. Works in multiple different ways. And it's just cool. It's really cool. Overall, too, just not a huge amount to specifically comment about on this, but he's just done such a brilliant job of matching the original source material, whether it's the beautiful curve in the crab claw, the angles of the legs, just the personality that he's packed into the mouth and the cool little horn bits that sort of stick out of it. He's done a brilliant, brilliant job. But something that I think is worth noting, of course, this mock is a little bit more system-focused, but I think it's really important if you are building something that's based off of something like this, where he's building a Lego version of the Pokemon Kingler, I think it's important to remember that using a little bit of system is definitely going to work towards your advantage, because it's a lot more easy to get super specific and focus on accuracy when you're using system, because the pieces are smaller. You'll be a lot more subtle with your accuracy, be a lot more specific in that regard. Often Bionicle pieces are naturally just a bit larger, so it can be a little bit more difficult to really pack in those details and really focus on accuracy there. Of course, depends how you use the pieces. I've seen builders who've done a fantastic job of doing that, but I think it's certainly, smart to use some system pieces if you are working towards accuracy when you're referring to specific, source material of some kind. So something to consider if you've got those system pieces and you've got your skills with system. Might be time to put them to use. But hey, if you're like, I like Kingler. Kingler's cool. Well, here's a fun surprise. So Mr. Stormbringer here has done a series of Pokemon that also double as battle mechs. So Kingler opens up here and has a minifigure inside, and he is controlling this Kingler, which, that's cool. Unexpected, but not unwelcome. I like it. It's very nice. Very nice indeed. Fun little thing. It works. And be sure to check out some of Stormbringer's other stuff. He's done some brilliant work. I don't think he posts much anymore. Does he? When did he last post? Because this Kingler was built in 2015. That was 5 years ago, guys. That was ages. Oh, geez, he has posted stuff recently. I have not seen half of these mocks. Oh, wow. Hi, Stormbringer. You're still around. He last posted. I'm checking on Stormbringer's stuff right now. He last posted in 2016. Okay, maybe not. I thought that these were more recent, but I have not seen these. He's built some cool, Overwatch-inspired mechs here. They're very well done. Maybe we'll cover them in a future Bionicle Inspiration series episode, but in the meantime, check out his stuff. There's links in the description. You can see some of the other stuff he's built. He's very good. Anyway, let's move over to another fine lad who is very, very talented with his use of the Lego. It's Gringat the Repugnant, and this is his mock called Red Rock Crab. Man, every time I say your name, Gringat, I'm like, Gringat the Repugnant. You're not a repugnant man. You're a lovely man. Why did you put repugnant at the end of your name? In all my time talking to you, I've never asked you that. It's fun, though. For whatever reason, I always associate you with that word. But, I don't. Because, like I said, you're not a repugnant man. You're a lovely man, Anyway, this is by Gringat, the not-so-repugnant. And this is a fantastic little crab. I'll read the description Gringat said here. He says, if you scroll way to the end of the gallery... Okay, well, I don't need to read this. There are more pictures of this crab, and he's saying, specifically, that this crab is carrying its eggs on her back. So that's pretty cool. That's a fun little detail there. And he said this is loosely based on the Christmas Island red crab. That's pretty cool too. Like I said, always important to, reference stuff if you are planning to reference something. You don't have to. But yeah, that's pretty cool. I love a lot of things about this mock here, specifically the eye design, using some minifigure heads in black and putting a hood piece on them like that to form the sort of more prominent eye design there. Great little design, looks fantastic. I also love too the use of those Ben 10 leg or arm pieces there, used as the sort of hands and claws for this crab here. We saw those exact pieces being used before, but I love that Gringat hasn't put anything on them, and the natural sort of kind of socket connection of them actually kind of looks like a crab claw. It's just really fitting and really creative. I like that a lot. I also like too that the jet bug head in red from Nitro Blast, I believe the set was. Don't quite remember that one. But that head there is being used as the kind of underside of the crab, is his kind of belly, as it were. That piece works really, really well for the underside of a crab, really well. Just the general textures of it really fit that of a crab. It's just really well done. I love it. But yeah, so a lot of really, really creative, clever part usages. In fact, one that I only just noticed, I don't know how it took me so long to see it, he used Furno 1.0, his chest piece in red as the carapace of the crab here. That's pretty cool. I like that a lot. So, yeah, dude. This mock is filled with clever part usages. Very, very well done, good sir. Love your work. All right, the final mock now, and it's a real good one. This one here, it's by Yannick Gutz. I don't know how to pronounce your name, I apologize. And another name I don't know how to pronounce is the name of this mock, Gnomon. Something like that. I'm going to read the description on this because I adore it, and it makes this mock better. So he says, for hundreds of years, there was a giant sundial in the middle of town. Then one day, an earthquake struck, and it stood up. I love that idea. The idea that there's just this ancient relic that sits in a town. Everyone's like, yeah, when we got here, there was just this cool sundial. We don't know where it came from. And then suddenly one day, the sundial just walks out of the ground and it's a giant crab. I think that's really cool. And I think it works so well because, as we can see here on some of these legs, there's little chunks of rock. His whole carapace is a giant rock with this sundial on it. Such a clever, creative concept. It looks like just some sort of ancient god that you'd find in some God of War video game or something like that. I love it. I love it a lot. I also love the face design here, using some of those Mixel those mixel like ball pieces there as the actual eyes, and then a bunch of different claws as well for the kind of mouth area. Really, really nice design, just works super well. And just that sundial is incredible too, using the flex tube and kind of wrapping it all around with those Exoforce bad guy robot arms. Beautiful. Using that that piece that came on a Kimu's shield, that wheel piece with the beautiful ornate patterns on it, gives this mock this great, grand, godlike, ancient look to it. Really, really nice texture play on this. Specifically, too, the fact that all the rock pieces are system pieces, giving it this more, rock-like look. And then all the Bionicle pieces are this sort of more, mechanical, godlike look to this creature. He looks ancient. All the sort of more detailed, kind of greebled textures on these pieces give him this sort of wrinkled, aged look. That's why I said before he kind of resembles a god of sorts. He just looks ancient and wise and strong. It's cool. It's really cool. But yeah, I adore the concept for this crab, and I adore the execution. Really great texture play. Just an awesome idea. Really, really cool. So that's a whole bunch of really cool crabs in this crab-themed episode of the Bionicle Inspiration series. If you liked these mocks, check the links in the description. You will find links to the people who built these over there. Also in the description is the email submission. You can find that on your screen or in the description below, so you can copy and paste it if you want. So if you want to see some of your own mocks on the show, that's where you can send them. Send me some images, any information you want to include in that email, and you'll be good to go. I had a few submissions in this one here because people saw that I had interest in that crab episode, and they're like, yeah, I'll send you some stuff, But yeah, you don't have to send stuff specifically because I'm going to do an episode, though. Just send whatever. Doesn't need to be fitted specifically with an upcoming theme or whatever. Just send what you got, and I'll make an episode around it, I'm sure. Additionally, in the description are links to some of my own work, my own social media, my other things. Got some good, exciting announcements coming up soon with that sort of stuff. I've got to wait for uni to finish, unfortunately, because I've had some projects that I've made in relation to uni, and once I've been, got the marks back for those assessments, I can then post the stuff, because otherwise they'll be like, who's this Ben Cossy guy that you stole your work of? And I'll be like, that's me. And they'll be like, yeah, you stole it. I'm like, no, I didn't. It's me, but my real life name is different to Ben Cossy, so they'll be like, he's clearly not you. I'll be like, we have the same first name. Anyway, so, But very soon that stuff's going to be coming out. It's some really exciting, really cool work that I'm actually very proud of. So you can stay tuned for that. I've also been watching a few different things, and I'm getting excited for a few. I've got some build concepts in my head for things I want to make. So again, stay tuned. Once I've finished those assessments with uni, which I'm slowly getting to, I'll have some brand new stuff coming. But of course, I'll be posting a few things on social media in the meantime. So head on over there and check it out. Anyway, that's it for this episode, this slightly longer episode of Biss today. Love you lots. See you in the next episode of the Bionicle Inspiration series. Thank you, and good night.